It starts with me. If innovation is everyone's job, it still has to be driven by a few key leadership inspirational sources so that others are drawn up through that example. And we also have to empower and engage the people all around us to want to bring ideas to life. How do you start your day? What's the first thing that you tend to do? Check your email. And it's fascinating to me because we all love to do that. We're either checking our email or we're checking our feeds, our social media feeds, right? So we're scrolling through. Sometimes, some of us do that before our feet even hit the floor. We grab our phone and we start looking through it. Is the way you are starting your day by looking at other people's lists of demands? Is it productive and is it intentional and is it something that is truly, truly worthy and needing of your attention? Where do I really have the most powerful impact? Is it on a process? And that's critical, but then go for it. Is it on a service innovation? That's really big. We need to fix that right now. Go for it. Is it on people and enriching and enhancing the lives of people? Go for it.
Innovation Culture and Hendrickson Forum 2018 is a TPT Partnerships co-production of the Hendrickson Institute for Ethical Leadership of St. Mary's University of Minnesota and Twin Cities PBS.
Welcome and thank you for being here. This forum for me is really one of the remarkable events that happen at the university. As I think back over the topics we covered, not only how timely they are and were, but what it does to help spur on innovation, new thinking, advancement, critical awareness. I'm conscious also when we gather each year that the dream of Bill Hendrickson lives on. His commitment and his witness to ethical leadership is honored as we gather today. Today is a witness to the fact that when good people do something, the ripples continue to go out. And I hope today, as you listen, as you go forward, perhaps something will be stirred in you for the good of the nation, for the good of your business, for the good of your neighborhood, for the good of the world. So be open to seeing today through a new set of eyes. Be open to be the agents of a new tomorrow. What will make not only your workplace and your home space, but your civic community, the nation, and our world better for all of humanity.
It has been more than a decade since we established the Hendrickson Forum as a venue to bring together our greater community to examine the principles of ethical leadership and to discuss a current issue that can only be resolved, supported, or better understood through the practice of ethical leadership. Leaders all over the world are participating in innovative solutions, and our local community is no different.
My name is Dale Kirshner, and as a regent of St. Mary's University of Minnesota School of Graduate and Professional Programs, I know firsthand the commitment the university has to inspiring ethical leadership and preparing students to be ethical leaders. Year after year, St. Mary's continues to awaken, nurture, and empower learners to live ethical lives of service and leadership. And fostering an environment of creative innovation, the university has continually reinvented itself to best meet the needs of its students and the needs of the workplace. An extension of St. Mary's commitment to innovation, the Hendrickson Institute for Ethical Leadership, and today's event, the Hendrickson Forum, offer the opportunity for area professionals to gather and be a part of important, timely conversations that will influence our communities, our businesses, our economy, and our world. Brother William did an excellent job, beautiful job, of talking about the importance of this program. In years past, we've addressed the global economy after a series of historic elections, our future with China, the issues of Main Street and Wall Street in the wake of the Great Recession, and we've deliberated the threat of cyber terrorism and the promises of social capitalism. Today, we are delighted to be joined by someone who is ideally positioned to speak on taking advantage of opportunities to transform new ideas into real solutions. As a business owner and internationally acclaimed author, Dr. Jackie Freiberg has unmatched insights on unconventional business best practices of globally admired leaders. For more than 28 years, she's been helping people build great leadership brands and helping companies become best places to work, which of course are also the places where the best people do their best work. Jackie follows, writes, and talks about leaders who notice, lead, and disrupt to create cultures of innovation. She is the co-author of 7 award-winning books, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce these with as much energy as they are worded. The first book is Nuts, the international bestseller describing Southwest Airlines leadership, culture, and profitability. There's also Guts, Boom. There's Nanovation. There's Do Something Now. And there's Be a Person of Impact. Cause, a business strategy for standing out in a sea of sameness. And most recently, Bocce Ball, the chemistry of winning and losing in baseball, business, and life. Dr. Freiberg also has been recognized as one of the top 30 minds on leadership by Leadership Excellence magazine. Today, she'll guide you to build a culture that results in innovation, especially in today's competitive business climate. And she'll discuss how organizations can harness innovation in new ways. Following Dr. Freiberg's remarks, I'll join her on stage to moderate the Q&A session of that part of our program. And now, St. Mary's, University of Minnesota, and the Hendrickson Institute for Ethical Leadership are honored to welcome Dr. Jackie Freiberg to the 2018 Hendrickson Forum.
Thank you, Dale. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Well, good afternoon. Hi, I can't see you, so you have to talk to me. So I'm going to start with a question. What do you suspect that is? An image of what? Airplanes. Oh, airplanes is always a good answer, but it's wrong. Sorry, Brother Robert, wrong. What else? Internet connectivity. Oh, that's close. Fiber optic line. Oh, no. Guess what? Facebook friend connections. Facebook friend connections. So, here's the next question. How many of you are on Facebook by a show of hands? Right now? Are you on Facebook right now? Be honest, some of you are. You're on Twitter. So, I saw, how many aren't on Facebook? One of the things that recently happened to me is I saw something, a feed that came through, and it made me go, that's funny. What can you do when you see something on Facebook that causes you to stop like that? What would you do? You could like it. What else could you do? You could share it. So I actually shared it or reposted it, and this is what it was. Do any of you remember seeing that go through? Not too long ago? It takes some people a little bit longer than it takes others. So let's go through this together. So why do I share this with you? I share it with you because I suspect at Hendrickson Forums in the past and today, there have been countless examples, stories, illustrations, lessons learned that have caused you to go, LOL. What's that? Laugh out loud, right? There are other moments where you've said, OMG, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. And there were moments, right, where you said, this is what you said. Just saying, okay? What's the future? And for those of you out there that do not have children who know that WTF stands for what, that's what we're going to talk about. What's the future? Look, none of us, absolutely none of us, we would love to have it, but we don't have a crystal ball. We don't necessarily know what the future is. But one of the things that we can be certain of the fact that leaders, ethical leaders, who know what the right thing to do is, who do the right thing, and who inspire and engage others to do the right thing. Those kinds of leaders who embrace and create and facilitate a culture of innovation are the leaders who are going to drive the future. So, what drives innovation? McKinsey did a study, and they asked leaders all over the world, is innovation important to your future? What do you suppose they said? Yes. You could talk to me. Yes. And then McKinsey said, how good are you at innovating? And they said, well, to be honest with you, we're probably, if we're really honest, slow adopters. And they said, okay, let's go a step further. What do you think drives innovation? 3 primary drivers of innovation. Number 1, can you tell me? What drives innovation? Who comes up with the needs and the curiosities? Employees. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Employees. Employees, the people who are working for you, drive innovation. They are closest to that pain point. They are closest to those concerns. They are closest to the frustrations. Employees drive innovation. Customers drive innovation based upon their frustrations, based upon their pain points, based upon their concerns, based upon their hopes, their aspirations, the needs that aren't being met, and sometimes even needs that have been met in other places and spaces that they say, perhaps, you could do that too. And then the other thing that drives innovation are the situations that are oftentimes beyond our control. Now, what's interesting is a lot of those executives said, yeah, I agree with that. But they said, honestly, if you push me, if you press me, I have this thing called innovation vertigo where I know it's important, but my head is spinning because how in the world do you do it? I think it's a lot like a lot of concepts. We've made these things so complex, and they don't have to be. Innovation is about enabling and empowering and engaging people, all people, to bring ideas to life, Unfortunately, a lot of people are frustrated, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. So the bottom line here is I don't care if you're small business, if you're medium-sized business, if you're a large business, if you're government, private, public. I don't care if you're an academic institution, even if you're an entrepreneur. Innovation, the bottom line, is everyone's job. And we've got to remind people and equip people with the freedom to bring ideas to life. So, in the 40 or so minutes that I have to chat with you, I would love to give you 3 handles to hold on to. Because I believe leaders are learners, one learner at a time. Leaders are learners who, as Brother William said, they see things out there. They don't go through life with their head down or their head in the sand. They see the opportunities to innovate or bring ideas to life or drive an improvement up or drive a cost out or improve an efficiency. Leaders are learners who notice the opportunities before them. Leaders are learners who do it themselves. They model it. And through their modeling and through their inspiration, they then engage and inspire others to want to bring ideas to life, to want to make their corner, their space of influence just a little bit better. I'm not necessarily talking about global transformation here. I'm talking about innovations that improve the lives of people. And when we improve the lives of one person, that becomes a drip. And then that person might want to improve the life of another person. And that becomes another drip. And then that person might want to improve the life of another person. And that becomes another drip. And then those drips, they become ripples. And those ripples become waves. And those waves become tsunamis. Tsunamis of ethical leadership. Tsunamis of people who want to bring ideas to life. So just 3 simple handles to hold on to. Notice. You got to notice the opportunities before you. You got to notice the injustices. You got to notice the things that aren't working, and you can never, ever turn a blind eye to those things if we're honest with ourselves, if we're honest with each other. The routine of life, that thing that we all embrace and we so look forward to at points in our life. We want the routine, we invest in the routine, we design the routine, we perfect the routine. But the routine of life can blind us to the opportunities that are right here before us, the opportunities to see something, to notice something that needs our talent, that needs our skills, that needs our brain, that needs our heart. The routine of life, what is your routine? Is your routine holding you back, or is your routine enhancing your life and enhancing the lives of others? When I'm in San Diego, which is really my home, we live on a canyon. And right below that canyon is the 8 freeway, which is a pretty busy freeway. So if you were to come and be a guest at my home, and you wanted some fresh air, San Diego, of course you do, you open the windows, and you went to sleep, that window, the noise below our home down in the canyon on the freeway would disturb you, disrupt you, keep you awake at night. Because it's busy. Now, I've lived there for 22 years, and my windows are wide open. I sleep right through the night. That noise does not bother me, it does not disrupt me, it does not wake me up. It's white noise to me. That is a routine. I can't hear it anymore. In life, the routine creates white noise that we don't see and we don't hear. And that's what causes us to turn a blind eye to the opportunity to affect change, to make a difference, and to do good. I want you to think about this. Oftentimes, in business, we don't think we have enough time to do all the things that we need to do because the routine is taking us out. Managers will say, I just don't have enough time, I just don't have enough resources, I don't have enough people. But the bottom line is, 90% of managers waste time and productivity by saying yes to an endless list of demands by other people, the people that work with you. And I want you to think about a routine that probably starts most of your day, that is about attending to the endless list of demands by others. How do you start your day? What's the first thing that you tend to do? Check your email. And it's fascinating to me because we all love to do that. We're either checking our email or we're checking our feeds, our social media feeds, right? So we're scrolling through. Sometimes, some of us do that before our feet even hit the floor. We grab our phone and we start looking through it. And what's interesting is when you think about starting your day with what's going on email-wise, all of a sudden you are starting your day based upon the demands, the urgent and important from someone else. If you want to be productive, if you want to be efficient, if you want to do good, if you want to affect the lives of one learner at a time, then one of the things that we have to do is be intentional about the way that we start our day and what we feed our head and our heart the moment we get up. Is the way you are starting your day by looking at other people's lists of demands? Is it productive and is it intentional and is it something that is truly, truly worthy and needing of your attention? David Grady did a TED Talk, and he starts the TED Talk by telling a story. He says, imagine you walk in the morning, ready to start your day, you went through your routine, you walk in, and guess what? Someone has taken your chair. What do you do? What do you do? I can't see you, but I can hear you. You go find your chair, not another chair. You want to be on the hunt for your chair, right? You go find your chair. He says, isn't that fascinating? Because if someone takes some of our stuff, we go on the hunt for it. But if someone takes our time, oftentimes we mindlessly accept the fact that they want our attention. They need us at the meeting. Think about all those countless meeting invitations that come through. Are you mindlessly just saying yes, accept, 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 without intentionally, purposefully thinking about, do you really need to be there? Do all those people really need to be there? Is there a purpose? Is there an outcome? Is there an agenda? Is there something that I could truly do during this meeting to add value? Or are we just simply showing up? What else is it What else is it that's causing you not to be able to see all the opportunities that are right there before you? What are you mindlessly accepting? If we want to truly be open to seeing the opportunities right before us, we can't mindlessly accept things that just happen to become a habit or a routine that maybe isn't the most healthy or maybe isn't the most productive. Maybe it doesn't hurt you at all. But it's just not as productive, as intentional, as purposeful, as good and as worthy and as ethical as maybe you want it or it could ultimately be. We're talking about organizations, we're talking about entrepreneurs, we're talking about businesses, we're talking about making a difference. What is it though in your life that you have maybe turned a blind eye to, so no longer are you able to listen? Is it a colleague who's frustrated, who's sad, who's disenchanted? Is it meetings that you constantly just accept and you go to and really they're not adding any value? What is it? Is it not holding people accountable? Is it people who don't rise to the occasion? Is it people who are frustrated and complain? I don't know what it is for you. You do. Don't turn a blind eye to those things that matter. Because when we do, we're not serving justice. We're allowing injustice to continue to occur, whether it's in an organization, whether it's in our civic community, whether it's in our academic institutions, whether it's in our small, medium, or large-sized business. Just little things that we change in the routine of our day and the routine of our life can make a huge difference. Change your routine and change what you see. Change the way you start your day and change what you'd be open to. So the question becomes, what has become routine? What has become status quo? What has become white noise? What is holding you back from seeing the opportunities that are right before us? Before the day turns dark, wouldn't it be interesting to elbow someone who's sitting right next to you and say, you know, before we leave today, let's make a personal and a professional commitment to change something that has become status quo, to change something that has become routine, to change something that has become white noise and habitual, that is holding us back from seeing the opportunities, the injustices, the good that we can do in our own individual circles of influence. Let's talk about why you're here. You want, when you come to any event like this, whether it's an hour, whether it's 2 hours, whether it's a day, you want to know that it was worthy of your time. What's the return on investment? The return on investment is ultimately this. It's you saying, everything starts right here with me. Everything starts with me. I might think they need to change, or they need to change, or they need to change, or they need to change. But it starts right here. What is the return on your improved performance? If you start there, then what happens is you become the leader who does it and inspires others to want to do it too. And that takes us to our second key point, lead. I'm going to unpack leadership. Look, when I was 7 years old, my dad would invite me out on dates, and we'd go to dinner, and we'd always talk, even though we didn't call it this, we'd always talk about leadership. He'd talk about the colleagues that he worked with, those who were an inspiration to him, those who drew him up and made him better. And then he'd talk about those colleagues who sucked the life and the passion and the energy out of him, and he couldn't stand doing business with them. So early on, when I was 7, he was planting seeds of leadership in me. Now, today, leadership has become so complex. When we want to learn about it, we go to Amazon, we try and purchase a book, and we realize it's complicated with theories, and it's all these words on paper. Leadership doesn't have to be complicated. Innovation doesn't have to be complicated. Lots of people like to make it that way. Let's bring it down to the fundamentals. And what is it? It's not power. It's not authority. It's not a title. It's not being an owner. It's not being an entrepreneur. It's not a badge of honor. It's not a chip. It's not something that we can inject yet, anyway. Yet. Leadership is a choice, and we are called upon countless times, and every day, to change words so that we can change a life, to change a routine so that we can see an opportunity, to change a habit that's getting in our way so that we can impact a life in a more powerful way. Leadership is a choice. The most powerful form of leadership is service. And service doesn't begin, for those of us who are in business, with our customers or our students. Service begins with our people. The instructors who are teaching our students, the professors who are teaching our students, the brothers who are teaching our students, the great theologies of the world. It's about serving our employees who are ultimately going to serve one another and ultimately create one of the greatest franchises in the world. That's what leadership is. It's a choice to serve. People want leadership. Jeff Bezos says, leadership is your brand. Leadership, in essence, is what people say about you when you leave the room. What people say about you when they think about coming to a luncheon, an event like this, and sitting at a table with you. Leadership ultimately is the impact that you have on others, how you land on people. And impact ultimately can be one of three things. Ideally, your leadership brand is positive, but not always, right? We're not perfect, and we live in a dynamic world. It can also be negative. People question how you leave the room. People question why you didn't respond in an email, why you didn't respond to their text. When your impact is positive, that's good. When your impact is negative, we got to figure it out, we got to fix it. We've got to engage in the art of the apology and try and grow and stretch and develop. When our impact is questionable, it's one of the most devastating forms of leadership. You know why? Because when people don't know why you said what you said, why you did what you did, why you showed up that way, why you walked out that way, they make assumptions about why you behave that way. And when they make those kinds of assumptions, those assumptions are oftentimes what? Wrong. But they're real for the people who made the assumptions. And so that reality for them is how they are building your brand. That's leadership. How did you leave the last room? How did you respond to the last email? How did you interact the last time? Here's a leader who knows the art of the apology. This is Rob Katz. He runs Vail Resorts. He was a wheeler dealer on Wall Street and said, you know what? I want to see what kind of impact I can have with a company. So he went to work with Vail. And he realized that he needed to engage in leadership development just like all of his people. So they engaged in a year-long leadership development program. And a part of that journey was getting feedback from his direct reports. So what Rob Katz did is he asked his 500 direct reports how they felt about his leadership. He stood in a room, and it was much like this, where there were 500 or so of his associates in the room. He was on a stage, all dark, couldn't really see anybody. There was a spotlight on him, and he pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket. And he started reading these words: Machiavellian, impatient, heartless, thinks he's always right, jackass, distant, talks too much, calculated, never satisfied, jerk, cool, aloof, and the list went on. And what he said is he said, that is a short list of adjectives that have been used to describe me by all of you. And then he went on to say this: when I took this job, I grossly underestimated the amount of feedback that I would receive. And then he went on to say, you can let that feedback buckle you, or you can learn to change. He said, you cannot lead well without self-awareness. Leadership, in my mind, is knowing how you leave the room, knowing how you impact people. Do you know how you leave the room? Do you know how you impact people? Once we know that, then we can engage in growth, in stretching, in developing and changing our routine so that we can have a more positive, less questionable, and far less negative impact on the people that we have direct influence over. Because when we influence them, they then influence the next tier and the next tier and the next tier. Therein is the drip, 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 ripple, ripple, wave, tsunami. And then, once we know who we are and the impact that we have and what we need to grow and stretch and change, then we have the right, we have earned the right to draw other people into that place of leadership, of doing good, of being good, and of making good. This is what Indra Nooyi says about leadership. She says about being leadership, look, if you want to improve your organization, you have to improve yourself. Then the organization, the others get drawn up with you. Here's what the CEO of LinkedIn says. He says, I had a day where it was like 5 in the morning until 9 at night, back to back, mindlessly accepting meetings. He said, and what I realized is I couldn't have the right kind of impact on my people because I was in meetings all day. I couldn't have an impact on the knowledge, the growth, the development, the changes. I couldn't impact our community. I was so drawn into those meetings. So he said, what I do is every single day, I put in 2 hours of blank space in 30-minute intervals. And during that blank space, that's where I can have a positive impact to draw others into this place of leadership. That's where I can think about developing. That's where I can think about innovating. That's where I can think about seeing the opportunities that are before me that I'd miss in the routine of going to meeting after meeting after meeting. And Melinda and Bill Gates say, we have a think week where all he does is reads about what is out there, the latest and the greatest in innovation and technology. He becomes a sponge to learning and stretching and growing himself. Could you do that? Here's a guy at Slack, and he says, look, my job is to be creative. Every single week, what Noah does is he evaluates his creativity output. What do you want to get better at? What is it that you want to do? How could you, at a week's end, hold yourself accountable to your creativity output, your new learning output, your influencing or doing good in another person, your spiritual growth? What is it that you would like to do at the end of the week? And he says, at the end of the week, I evaluate myself on that creativity output, and then I share it with my team. And I ask them if they think I was, honest about it. And he says, because it's hard to get better at something if you don't reflect on it, without having that moment of self-evaluation, without that charge to improve on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, biannual basis. You're not going to change your behavior. And here's my good friend Mehran Asadi, who runs National Life Group, the fastest growing insurance company in an industry that's flat and declining. In their leadership, tenets are 7 critical C's. And what Mehran Asadi says is, he says, if I'm going to hold my people, my entire organization, accountable to living the 7 C's of leadership, I better be it. I better model it me first, and then I can draw others to that place. So every Sunday, every single Sunday morning over his coffee in quiet time without any interruptions, he reflects over the last week and anticipates the next week and says, how did I do in the 7 C's of leadership? Where do I need to improve? Where do I need to turn up the volume? And having an impact on others. So the question on this key point, if the last one was, what in your routine do you need to change? What is it? What is it that you want to improve? What kind of output do you want to have more intentionally and more purposefully? And what could you do? At what point in your week or in your month could you say, I'm going to self-assess. I'm going to self-evaluate. So again, it starts with me. If innovation is everyone's job, it still has to be driven by a few key leadership inspirational sources, people, models. Our final key point. We got to notice the opportunities before us. We got to see them. We got to lead it, be the example so that others are drawn up through that example. And we also have to empower and engage the people all around us to want to bring ideas to life. Because if our employees are the people who are bringing innovations to the table, one of the things that we know about them is we know that everyone loves to tout the fact that people are our most valuable assets. And I'm here to say they're not. Sorry if that's offensive to some of you, but they're not. Because the data tells us that the majority of people who come to work are dead people working. They're physically there, but they're psychologically, they're emotionally, they're intellectually checked out. 70% of people who come to work today are not engaged. And you know what? God didn't design us to be that way. Deeply planted in every single one of us are dreams and goals and talents and skills and gifts and desires. And we didn't wake up and say, I don't want to do those anymore. What happened is it's a drip, drip, a negative drip, drip. The temperature gets turned up just a little bit each day, so much that we become numb to it. And that's not the way we were intended to be. People were not intended to be that way. Everybody comes to work wanting to add value. 52% of people who come to work today are frustrated, and they're frustrated because they lifted an idea, and guess what happened to that idea? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Maybe it went into a black hole. Or maybe, you know what? We don't have the resources for that right now. Oh, you know what? We tried that before. Oh, they'll never buy into that. Oh, I don't know. Now's not the right time. Or maybe I'm just distracted. Or maybe the people who bring those ideas to the table don't realize that it's important for them to know how to create a return on their investment, right? So, the scarcest resource in organizations isn't talent, it's not money, it's not power, it's not ideas, it's people who know how to do something now with the ideas that they want to bring to life. It's ultimately people who are engaged, who have ideas. Those are the most valuable resources out there. So today, leadership isn't about an individual or a team of titled people who have all the answers. Today, leadership is about being gifted at getting ideas from everybody. That's what innovation is. Inviting everyone to bring their ideas to the table, create a return on that investment. What's the bottom line? What's the change? What's the good that's going to come out of that? Herb Kelleher used to try and find ideas. He's the chairman emeritus of Southwest Airlines, one of the founders of Southwest Airlines, which is iconic for its culture of innovation and changing that industry. And we are so sorry for the tragedy that they just experienced. But he says, the only way that I could get ideas from everybody was to serve my people. Not to be the leader, but to serve them. And how would he serve them? He'd go to pockets within the organization that were busy, busy, busy. So the busiest day of the airline industry, he'd show up in places that were frustration points or pain points, not, by the way, when it was convenient for him, but when he felt like he needed to be there. So the busiest day in the airline industry is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, when everyone's traveling. And he would go to pockets that were busy, busy, and he'd show up and he'd say, what's it like here? What can I do to help you? How can I serve you? What do you need? Let me do it. Can I help? He would just be there not to fix, by the way, anything. He would be there to feel it. So he didn't go to fix it, he went to feel it. He wasn't one and done. Look, I do it only on Wednesday before Thanksgiving and I'm good. He'd show up at the maintenance hangar at 2 o'clock in the morning and bring donuts to the team and say, show me that. What's going on with that engine? How do you like that? How do you do that? And he'd honor and support and he'd be there for them. He'd show up. And it's not when it's convenient. It's when it matters most. So I challenge you, if you have a team of people, what's the busiest day for them? And how can you show up, not to fix it, but to feel it for them? How can you show up and make your time there matter? That's how you're going to find ideas. That's how you're going to facilitate ideas. That's how you're going to mine the ideas from people who want to bring those ideas to life. Because let me tell you, these are the things that matter most. Doing what I'm good at. All of your people want to know that they're there, they do what they're good at. They also want to know that you as a leader want to feel it with them. You want to mentor them. You want to coach them. And you want to give them feedback on how they can get better. People also want to know that their ideas matter, that they're adding value. And then here's the meaningful moments that will happen when you show up as a leader. You can propose a new idea, and people want to know that that new idea can make a difference. Another meaningful moment is when someone asks for help. How are you responding to them when they ask for help? Another meaningful moment is when someone pushes back on something that they don't think is right, an injustice maybe? Maybe something that the rest of the organization has turned a blind eye to? What's the response to the pushback? When someone asks for a personal favor, I need some time off because XYZ is happening in my life. How are you responding to that? How are your managers responding to that? And then when I add value, when I do something that's significant, when I lift an idea, maybe it's not the right time, but can you connect me? Can you help me collaborate with someone who might be able to help me better vet that idea? Or what happens when someone screws up? Great leaders are always capitalizing on these moments to make them meaningful, so it furthers a culture of innovation and bringing ideas to life instead of shutting it down. Because once we begin to shut that stuff down, then we begin to create a culture where people are frustrated, where people are not engaged, and we don't want to do that to create a culture of innovation. I have lots more to tell you, but I know my time is up, and I know Dale wants to ask me a number of questions. So with that, I'm going to end, and then we're going to take a quick break to facilitate a stage change. So thank you. I'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. We're back, and just wanted to say, Jackie, thank you for the very interesting comments.
You're welcome.
And it was great what you had to say. And I just wanted to remind people that we have only a little bit of time left to take some questions. We received some great questions already, so thank you for that. One of the questions that came in, we had a couple questions that went along this line of disrupting routines can be challenging while necessary. How can businesses more intentionally embrace diversity, inclusion in business structures? And I think it goes along with a lot of the organizations out there are pretty fixed in their ways today. And when you talk about these really great ways of changing leadership or bringing in new leadership, how can people work within existing organizations to really bring that about?
Well, I think a huge way to encourage shaking up a routine, but at the same time, maybe ringing multiple bells while you do that to grow diversity and to grow inclusion is, not just shake up a routine, but what is it in the business routine, the way that the business opens, the way that people walk into the building, the way that people engage at lunch, the way that we do training and education. How is that something that has become white noise now to people? And what could you do to rethink the way that you organize or structure some of those things? What could you do to rally people to create a community service project together so that we see each other in a give back versus a work all day kind of a situation? What can we do to organize some brown bag, events during lunch? What could we do to host, coffees in the morning, happy hours in the evening, whatever it is to rally different people together for the opportunity to collaborate, create cross-functional relationships that perhaps aren't currently occurring. So look at what's going on, and don't think that you have to do it either. I mean, part of this is going back and equipping your teams and your colleagues with, some of these insights and saying, What are your ideas? Remember, innovation is about bringing ideas to life. Everybody wants to know that they add value. Everybody wants to know that their thumbprint is somewhere within the organization. Challenge them or invite them. Don't challenge them, but invite them to participate and shake up the routine of work, not just life, but of work as usual.
We talked a little bit ahead of time of how do you know when it's just at the situation where there aren't enough people like you within the organization for you to affect that kind of change? How much time do you give yourself to not become one of those many people, as you put up on the screen, that are kind of the walking dead of the workforce out there?
If you find yourself or you see people around you who are among the dead people working, who are either disengaged or actively disengaged, I think it's part of our civic and our personal and our just spiritual responsibility, our leadership responsibility, our care and kindness ethic to reach out to people and say, why? What's happening? What's going on? Is there something going on in your life that we don't know about? Or is it just that you're burned out, you're fried, you're exhausted? Or, please help me. What's going on? Be a real person. Ask them. Ask. And listen. Ask, don't to respond, ask to understand what their situation is. And if you ask and you just can't find out and that individual doesn't change, well, sometimes we have to invite the individual to think through why they are there. And when we talked before the keynote or the luncheon actually began, it was like, look, if you've got that gut feel in you as an individual who's working for a company, I don't care what size it is, and it just doesn't feel like it's a cultural fit for you, then what that means is you're not going to be able to further the culture, whether that culture deserves to be furthered or whether it doesn't. Don't stay there too long, because when you are in an environment that isn't a fit for you, it will slowly but surely begin to suck the life and the energy out of you. And that is not healthy. That is where and when and how we become dead people working. And again, none of us were intended to be that way. Go look out. Look out there for other appropriate fits.
Turning that around for some of the students out there and anybody else who might be looking for that next great opportunity, how do you find companies that aren't just walking the talk? How do you actually make sure that where you're going is that kind of company that you just described?
Do your research. Talk to people who work there. People are more than willing to talk to you if they work there. If they're proud of it, it will leak out of them. If they're not proud of it, it will leak out of them. Go online, but don't trust Glassdoor and Glassdoor alone, because there's no vetting process on that. I've worked for, and I have relationships with a lot of businesses that are so torn because of what's written on Glassdoor. Glassdoor gives anybody who's got a grievance the opportunity to post what they want to. So don't just base your opinion on that. Sit in the parking lot when people are scheduled to come in or leave. See what they look like when they're walking in the morning. See what people do at lunchtime. Are they staying in the building? Are they getting out? Are they running? Are they walking? Are they cycling? Are they outside together? See what people look like when they leave. Those are the kinds of things that will give you little tips, little insights into the culture. Culture is thousands of little things that an organization stands for and behaves out loud in countless interactions all day long.
We talked earlier, too, about the importance of purpose. And why is purpose so much more important today than even profitability?
Oh, great question. So I have the great opportunity and gift to speak to the students this afternoon. And one of the things that I'm going to share with them that I didn't share with you is Edelman does a trust barometer every year, and they measure trust levels in this country in various different really important categories. And one of the things that they do is they asked America, not elite America, but middle America, if you really think about it, who do you think can solve some of the social ills, some of the problems in society that we're up against today in this country? And you know what people said? Not government, business. But not any business. Businesses that are profitable can't stay in business if you're not making a profit. Businesses that are profitable and for mission or for purpose too. So they're businesses that are actually making a difference in their corner of the world, their circle of influence, their communities. Those are the kinds of businesses that people want to do business with. People will work for a cause. They want to know that their contributions are adding value, but they also want to know that those talents and those gifts and those skills that they put in 40, 50, 60 hours a week, they want to know that they're making a difference in the communities that they serve. And people will buy for a cause. Oftentimes what we find is people will actually pay a little bit more for a business that is contributing back to something that matters to them. So people will work for a cause, people will buy for a cause, and then those people who work for a cause or work for a mission or work for a purpose, and those people who buy for it will also become the very best brand advocates than you could ever pay for. So it's just clear.
One of the questions that came in, if people want leaders, how do we make sure our business innovators are following the right leaders? So if you have innovators out there, how do you make sure that they're innovating and going down the right path, following the right leader?
Well, I think this Hendrickson Forum is all about ethical leadership, and we know that innovations that are making a piece of the world, again, it doesn't have to be global transformation, a piece of the world just a little bit better. You know in your heart of hearts that that's the right kind of leadership, if it's good. One of the stories that I didn't get the chance to tell you is about Ratan Tata. He's the chairman emeritus of the Tata conglomerate. And the fascinating thing about that family, which has deep roots in India, in Southeast Asia, where most people do business in an unethical way, the Tata conglomerate has been grounded and founded in being ethical in everything they do. The things that drive them are three things: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. You want to know what someone stands for? You want to know who they are at the core? Listen to their words. Our thoughts impact our words. Our thoughts and our words impact our behavior and ultimately the difference that we make, whether it's good or whether it's neutral or whether it's negative or whether it's questionable. Don't compromise.
We have time for one last question, and that question has to do with noticing. Sometimes one can notice so much. How do you chip away at all the things you've noticed and start dealing with all of it?
How do you prioritize the priority? Right. Isn't that funny how prioritize, there's like 10 priorities. Isn't priority one word? We have one priority. I would think when you notice things that need to be changed, be the change. Whatever you see, be the change that you see needs to happen. So I would say, look at those opportunities and say, where is the most high leverage change initiative here? Where do I really have the most powerful impact? Is it on a process? And that's critical, but then go for it. Is it on a service innovation? That's really big. We need to fix that right now. Go for it. Is it on people and enriching and enhancing the lives of people? Go for it. What is the most high leverage in the things that you're noticing? And start there. And oh, by the way, don't do it alone. Innovation requires us to collaborate, to reach across functional boundaries, to connect with people who have thoughts and insights and perspectives that are way different than ours. That's why we need to be inclusive to other people, because their perspective might be radically different. It doesn't mean we have to agree. It just might mean that we can be informed and we can learn a little bit more and we can stretch and grow in that journey of partnering and collaborating with one other person or two other people or a team of other people. So remember, innovation is about getting ideas from all different people and then figuring out what's the most high leverage.
Great. Well, Dr. Jackie Freiberg, thank you very much for your time. Please join me in thanking Dr. Freiberg one more time.
Thank you. Dr. Freiberg, for your empowering words and your insights on business innovation. And Dale, thanks again for helping us further those insights by asking the questions you and the audience submitted. We're grateful to all of you for your support. Thank you all for joining us. I hope that you, inspired by this discussion and innovative spirit, step forward as a learner and a leader, and to set a course for action for how you can lead ethically with a commitment to serving the common good. We look forward to seeing you next spring at the 2019 Hendrickson Forum, where we will continue our dialogue on the current issues that matter most and the vital importance of solving them through ethical leadership. Thank you again for joining us today. Travel safely. Good afternoon.
The most important takeaway today was who you are as a leader, and how effective you are as a leader depends on how your coworkers and the people above you and below you view you and think of you after you leave the room.
Key pieces of innovation that I hope to see within the workplace, as mentioned today, something that I think is vital to any leadership is servant leadership. So I'd love to see that innovation towards that servant leadership aspect, whether that be serving employees, serving those above us, serving our consumers.
The kind of leader I want to be is someone that everyone could look up to, someone that people could count on, someone that they know they could trust.
Innovation is creating new ideas and inspiring other people by the ideas that you create and learning from other people's ideas as well.
The kind of leader that I want to be is somebody who is approachable, who is humble, who is understanding, and who my employees are able to look up to and be able to approach me for whatever they need.
A lot of people could say when I graduate, I just want to make money to pay off my student loans or live in a nice condo in New York or something. But now, like, finding out what leadership is, I want to do something that impacts my back at home in Chicago, my community.
Innovation Culture and Hendrickson Forum 2018 is a TPT Partnerships co-production of the Hendrickson Institute for Ethical Leadership of St. Mary's University of Minnesota and Twin Cities PBS.